You're going to be nice to me in this interview or the lights are not coming on. Are you going to be nice?
I want to see you. You're in the dark.
You want to? You know what chair I'm in? I'm in your.
Wait, what is this?
Be nice to me in this interview or the lights are not coming on. Are you going to be nice?
I want to see you. You're in the dark.
You want to? You know what chair I'm in? I'm in your favorite chair.
Oh no! Please don't do it.
This is it. This is the chair where you watch Piers Morgan interview Hans Niemann.
I remember that very well. That was a
that happened moment. Right before you and I filmed that Chessable commercial. After you literally spent more hours than was humanly healthy in this chair. Actually, to be honest, like shout out to your Chessable course, by the way.
Yeah, I spent in a single day. I think I spent about 14 hours sitting there.
It was
hating my life.
Hating your life, you know, that's what Chessable will do to you. Like everyone who buys Chessable course loves them. The people who create the courses are like, why did I agree to do this? Like, this is absolutely incorrect. Anyway, well, shout out to the Piers Morgan interview with Hans Niemann. Shout out to the crazy chess world we live in. Shout out to every damn thing that's happened. And shout out to your birthday, by the way. Did you get yourself a birthday massage?
I didn't get a massage, but I did get a cupcake. That's pretty good though. I mean, it's not a massage, but
I'm not sure. I'm a little confused by this video.
You know, we'll take what we can get. So I got a cupcake.
Okay, you got a cupcake. Well, speaking of massages, Amon and I were talking about the fact that when the Najdorf was going well, you were massaging those positions to victory. It felt like you were comfortable. You were at home.
Wait, what?
Obviously, there was one that went wrong. I think it was game.
Wait, what is this? Like we just dealt with like buzzsaws, perpetual attacks, you know, leaping in to assault the king. Like what is this? What is this with chess? Jeez.
Game 3, but overall you were dominating with these sort of slow massaging victories, but then you switched to d4. Tell us what the match strategy was coming in now that it's over. Was that premeditated that you would switch at some point? What was going through your head there?
Yeah, so I had a general strategy, which was that I figured that Alexei, who really stays true to his openings, would probably play the Najdorf, although there was a small chance he would play some other Sicilian, but I thought it's like very, very likely he'll stick to the Najdorf the whole match. And probably the E3 Nimzo, which...
By the way, I like it. Someone in chat, they just say, Visor's Pearl says, the world is now becoming full of brain rot terms. Brain rot. I agree. Brain rot. Yeah, brain rot. Exactly.
It's probably the biggest expert in the world in and plays it not exclusively, but very, very often. And so I remembered that I had this idea, this very rare Queen D3 line to play against Anish quite a while back, and I thought, you know, why don't I play it? It's a relatively unknown or little known line. It's rather poisonous if you don't know what to do, and the only problem was that it is a complete mess positionally. So even if black goes somewhat wrong, it remains a really, really complex strategic mess. And so I figured that in the breaks he would find out what to do, but before we get to the break, it might not be so easy if he doesn't know it super well. So yeah, overall it was a good idea. I think it was a good pick. I mean, the first game was a rather sad ending to mouse slip Queen F4, and then okay, the third game also I had an opening disaster, but overall it was pretty good. And I think with black my openings really stayed very healthy throughout the match, and that was a really important factor.
You mentioned, so I got to go there, the Botez Gambit in game 1, gave up the queen with a mouse slip. Game 3 didn't go your way either. At that time, you know, Amon and I are wondering how you're going to handle the time scrambles. Are your nerves just not there today? What goes through your head at those times? Are you able to forget those losses?
No, I mean, I think the point of my mods giving me this video is basically just, you know, it's about Fabiano giving his secrets in speed chess. No, these are real questions. I think these are real questions.
At least in the middle of the match until you mention here, or are they kind of always in the back of your head sort of haunting you?
Yeah, of course. It was very unpleasant, those two games especially. But I figured that it's going to be a very long match no matter what. I mean, if you look at almost all matches, there are a few where like someone runs away with it, but usually it remains pretty close going into bullet, and then bullet very often decides it. So I wasn't like panicking or anything. And I figured, I mean, I'm not playing badly. Okay, the game two was pretty poor, but game one, I mean, I played a pretty decent game. A mouse slip, it's not really my fault. It was just an accident. Like I basically in that position wanted to trade queens, so I was thinking, okay, queen e3 at some point we'll trade queens, and then he played something, and I was like touching my queen, but I didn't want to go to e3 suddenly. Then I wanted to go back to my bishop, and then I just let go of the queen on the f4 square. It was a tiny slip, but I really wasn't despairing. I figured that
yeah, after the last video, I swear, after the last video, my brain is rotting. I swear, every single thing that I can take the wrong way, I immediately in my head it just sticks out. Yeah, it's like after that last video, every single thing that could be a little bit off, immediately my mind goes in the wrong direction. Yeah, exactly. He was doing what again? I mean, we can watch it. Yeah, let's go back.
I wasn't like panicking or anything, and I figured, I mean, I'm not playing badly. Okay, the game three was pretty poor, but game one, I mean, I played a pretty decent game. A mouse slip, it's not really my fault. It was just an accident. Like I basically in that position wanted to trade queens, so I was thinking, okay, queen e3 at some point we'll trade queens, and then he played something, and I was like touching my queen. But I didn't want to go to e3 suddenly. Then I wanted to go back to my bishop, and then I just let go of the queen on the f4 square. It was a tiny slip, but I really wasn't despairing. I figured that if my openings with black stay pretty okay, then I'll get my chances.
That's great. I mean, not being discouraged after that, probably shows why you're Fabiano Caruana and I'm not, and probably neither is Amon. I don't think Amon is Fabiano Caruana either. But all right, sticking on the subject of time scrambles, nerves, how you handle kind of the fastest moments, I'm gonna jump ahead to a feature chat question, but it was something Amon and I wanted to ask anyway, which is, what were you thinking would happen in the bullet? Ultimately, you ran away with it. How do you look at the different time controls in the SCC? I think that sometimes people look at you and say, you're obviously a great classical chess player, which the assumption being, do you like the blitz time controls? Shouldn't you, in theory, get worse as the time control gets faster? But no, you actually got better today and played very well in the bullet. So how are you preparing at this point in your career?
No, I mean, actually, like, we'll finish this in a second. But one thing that I do get annoyed by is, like, when people say Fabiano is bad, like at bullet, for example, specifically, like, a lot of people don't realize that when that's said, I mean, you're literally talking about less than 5 people in the world who can even dominate him at bullet. I mean, there are other people who can probably win close matches, but you're talking about like maybe 5 people who can just dominate him in the bullet portion, and everybody else, it's just going to be a close fight in the bullet. And that really annoys me how so many people, they take that to mean, well, automatically someone is terrible. And it does kind of annoy me to hear that, because like against anybody not named Magnus, myself, or Ali Reza specifically, or maybe Daniel with increment, I'm not so sure about, but like in bullet, like with increment 1-1, I mean, I think there are only 3 people, maybe Nihal as well, but you're talking about like 3 or 4 people who are who can just like dominate him. Everybody else, he might be a slight underdog, but he's not going to get blown away in bullet. So that's why, like, I find it like kind of weird to see this narrative that's been pushed a lot. I mean, it's not just here, but it's been pushed. Dominate? No, I'm saying like Magnus or myself or Ali Reza, if we're on our game, we're going to win like 5-6 games in a row. We're going to just clean it up in the bullet portion of an SCC match.
Your bullet, how do you think about the bullet with the increment? Just talk a little bit about how you're handling the fastest time controls here.
Well, I figured that it's not a huge difference.
But everybody else, there
it's
may be a small favor, but it's not guaranteed at all.
Right? In a straight bullet game, I don't know if I would feel very confident against most good bullet players, including Alexei. But with the 1 second increment,
by the way, including me, by the way, like, how would you do against me in a bullet match? By the way,
wait, what?
Oh, I would adopt you many times over.
1-0 or 1+1?
Either one.
That is game on. You and Anish are out over your skis. You're not in the bullet leagues of these other guys. And I know you already saw the Twitter feud with Anish. We will do that at some point.
I'm down, Danny.
Okay.
Confusing.
Get back to what you're saying about bullet, and I'm gonna seethe over here.
Confusing.
Well, with 1-1, it's like it's what we're doing throughout the match. I mean, at some point the 3-1 and the 5-1 goes down to the last few seconds. And we were more or less trading blows when it got down to seconds. I mean, I was blundering away some very critical games, but it wasn't Like I was also winning games when we were down to increment. So I figured, what's the difference really? It's going to be more important like the start of the game again. Who's playing more intuitively well when we still have plenty of time on our clock. And
Fair.
at that point, I was very happy with my openings. I thought that like my Nimzo was starting to look pretty good. At the start, I was playing a very risky line, and he punished me in one very nice game where I played it, where he just attacked me on the king side and I had no chance. But then I moved away from that line. I was pretty confident with the positions I was getting. With white, I thought, okay, now we'll play a bit more positional, no knight orcs, just English and some sort of Carlsbad structures, which I felt like I was consistently outplaying him in the Carlsbad structures, in the 3 minute and also in the 1 minute. So I wasn't feeling unconfident at all. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if the bullet went poorly. I wouldn't have been surprised if the bullet went well. It's one of those things where a lot of momentum very often carries you. And I've had like very bad bullet stretches in the past in this format, like against Duda a few years ago, against Hikaru, but Hikaru is I think kind of a league ahead of most of the other guys, except for maybe Magnus. But I've also had like good bullets portions against Maxime 2 years ago when we were doing the commentary.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the point.
And
Like
again,
basically, other than Magnus, myself, and Alireza, like I mean, Fabiano is going to be an underdog, but he's not gonna be like a huge underdog, even in bullet against anybody.
Notre Beck last year and against Argent.
This is from this year, I think.
I really
this is from
wasn't
this year.
like unconfident, but anything can happen. I've seen it all.
Is unconfident a word, by the way? Because you said that now twice. I didn't think unconfident. Lack of confidence. I could have sworn is unconfident a word? I didn't think it was actually. It sounds really strange. Like lacking in confidence, or I'm not feeling confident. Unconfident doesn't sound quite right to me. Maybe it is, but it sounds weird
on these matches.
Sure. We have seen it all.
It is a word, okay.
And you
sounds
have a pretty
weird
good record in the round of 16. I remember you were upstairs.
So I feel like
in the
you say
office
I
winning
wasn't
that match
feeling
versus
confident.
MBL. It was adorable. We had the world championship. We commentated on the couch.
And Robert came in. That was a nice moment.
That was so great. Question from chat: what are your 3 favorite books on that bookshelf behind you?
Actually, I got asked this question recently because I was talking to some up and coming kids in Jamaica, some of the members of this new program in Jamaica, like GM intent to make a Jamaican Grandmaster.
Yeah.
And so they were asking me like, what are the books that you recommend? And
I think they're only
I said
chess
some
books,
of the
by
classics, like Zurich 1953, Fischer's Memorable Games, and 2 of the books which, when I grew up, I really think I gained a lot from them were also what I mentioned, Jonathan Rowson's 7 Deadly Chess Sins and Chess for Zebras, because I think a lot of books don't go into the psychology part of chess, and those do. And I thought that was kind of
psychology is a big
thing. So those are
in
books
chess.
If you're like looking for psychology in chess, not just the pure chess part of chess, then that's what I would recommend. And and there are also a lot of non-chess books there. I don't know if that's what chat was interested in, but yeah, from chess books, those are the ones that I would maybe single out.
Give us one non-chess book. I think chat was interested in chess, but give us one non-chess book.
So I read, not too recently, but the 3-Body Problem, the first part. I think it's a 3-part series, and I think it was also recently made into a show, although I haven't seen it. But that was one of the most interesting books that I read in the last.
Is that the one with like the future, like it's like a robot kills someone or something, or
it's alien? No, it's an alien race.
Okay, I won't get into the plot of it, but there are no robots.
Danny doesn't know what the 3-Body Problem is about.
It's like set in different time periods, and one part is the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and another part is like a very sci-fi-ish thing based on like a video game and a conspiracy around it. But yeah, I do want to watch the show as well, because I want to see how it compares to the show.
I have watched the show, by the way.
Horror movies you watch. You need to stop watching so many horror movies. I'm disciplining you.
But there's only one season. They didn't
You're
do the second
obsessed with
season
horror
yet,
movies, and it's ridiculous. All right. Last question, man. You really drove home a point here. Amon and I were talking about the fact that you just didn't let up. you beat Serrano. Almost always the person who loses the match wins the last game because someone lets their foot off the gas. So is it because
Oh, there
you're
is
broke
season
and
2's
you really
out?
needed the money
Really?
and we
I
should
didn't
get
know
some
that.
furniture because the apartment is looking barren behind you?
Mm.
What was the deal?
Well, it's not because of furniture, although I am not great at furnishing. I will admit I'm actually probably the worst. Like if there were a prize for worst at furnishing, I think I'd come out and clear first. But and I've also had this apartment for about 2 years, so it's not like it's a new apartment. But in terms of the match, I just realized at some point that he was getting tilted, like very clearly. Probably once he realized that the match was very unlikely that he would be able to come back, and so I think it was very noticeable in that game with like the reverse Sicilian where he just gave up his e5 pawn at some moment, and
Yeah.
a few other games that he was kind of despairing, which is understandable. I mean, if you can't win the match, then it doesn't feel very good to keep playing. But I was kind of in a flow state. I felt good. I was just playing natural moves, and I don't know if they were good moves, but playing natural and decent moves quickly usually usually gives us a good result.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good video. That's just general, I think. Let me see. What else do we have? I feel like, do we have anything else? Let me just see. All right, what is this? One more video that we have. What is this? One more video.
Yeah, I'm gonna start working on.
Okay, what is this? This is a Dojo Talks video ranking the top 10 US chess players of all time. Okay, so all right, so I see they put their list. They're probably gonna discuss this. I'm gonna, without looking close at the list, I'm gonna give you my top 10. Now there's certain criteria that you have to use. So I'm gonna give my list. I can give my list based on purely chess or just like broadly like the whole chess world as a whole. If I'm using purely from a chess perspective, like the absolute pure strength, it has to be Bobby Fischer number 1, Fabiano number 2, and I have to be number 3 is what I would say. I don't really think that you can rank anyone else above us. I don't think there's anybody else you can really rank above us. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think you can. Although having said that, now that I think about that, there is Paul Morphy, who I had forgotten about. So maybe it's a little bit different. I mean, like, it depends if you talk pure strength, but actually no, let me revise my list. I think if I revise my list, I think that, I mean, by purely how good he was based on his time, probably it should be Morphy number 1, because he was probably at least 300 to 400 points higher rated than the other ones. Don't adjust, if I don't adjust for inflation, it's I mean, then Morphy's way down on the list, which isn't fair. Frankly, by that metric, then I mean both Fabiano and myself are better than Bobby Fischer, which is not right either. So I mean, probably if I'm ranking it by pure chess, I mean, I think I would probably rank, I still think I would rank, I think I'd rank Fischer number 1, Morphy, actually, I mean, maybe I'd rank Morphy number 1, Fischer number 2, Fabio number 3, myself number 4. I don't think you can put anyone above us. I think that's easily the top 4 in some order. I'm going to be honest though, I do know that these guys generally, they are a little bit biased for whatever reason. They're not particularly the biggest fans of me. That I've seen them talk about many different topics related to me where they just get it completely wrong. So I'm not expecting them to rank me super highly. But let's see what they do. Let's based on what I mean, Fabiano's peak rating is 2851. No, I mean, I can give you a good example of that. I mean, I can give you a good example of that, which is like they were talking about the Olympiad and they're saying, oh, he's supposed to play for his country, it matters more than anything else. And they simply misunderstand, or they don't really understand like sort of how I approach chess these days. That is not ultimately like the main thing for me, that I am a content creator first and chess is definitely second, which I've seen them say. Like they were talking about the Olympiad, that, oh, I was supposed to play, like me not playing, you know, it's terrible, like what are you doing, you got to play for your country. Just completely missing the point that at the end of the day, I'm a content creator first. I'm not a professional chess player in the way that I once was. But let's take a look. So okay, Jesse has Fischer, Morphy, Fabiano, myself. Okay, so Jesse's ranking I think is basically Fischer or Morphy in some sequence. Makes sense. Reshevsky, Yasser. By the way, I'm looking through this list and there is a there is a very glaring omission here. Wait, there's no Gata Kamsky. Wait, what? I don't see Gata here actually, which is a huge mistake. I'm at the end after they discussed everyone. Okay. Who is Marshall? Frank J. Marshall was a great American player. Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, when I look at this, though, this is these rankings, Jesse's I would agree with, at least for the first 4. The others, I mean, putting Reshevsky ahead of me, I don't really think that's putting Reshevsky ahead of me or putting Marshall ahead of me. Like that's a big bias. I don't know why God is not here though. God is not here and Wesley's not here either. I mean, are they just saying that God and Wesley aren't American? I don't actually I don't understand what they say. So let's listen to what they say in terms of why Levon, I mean, I understand is Armenian. I get that, but let's see.
I think the top 9 are, and then you guys can let me know.
So now actually me and Jesse basically got the same list, except just different order.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
God
the
is very
rankings here are
weird.
pretty. Oh, they're very close. It's going to be close.
Yeah,
Fabi is
usually
number 3.
we
I'll tell you
argue
that.
a lot more.
Yeah, this one somehow we coalesced.
Okay, let's see what
folks,
they say.
David is tabulating.
Tabulating madly.
Yasser was a very strong player. Yasser made the candidates tournament. He had wins in classical chess over Karpov, I believe over Karpov and Kasparov. I definitely beat Kasparov at the Dubai Olympiad. I think it was like 88 or 90, whenever it was. I forgot which year. But yeah, but basically they did. Only players whose formative years were in the US. But see, that's the problem here. You guys are, I assume they're going to say that in a second. If you look at this list, I'm going to be honest. When you talk about formative years, I'm just gonna be honest. The problem with not putting Gata on this list is that if you're gonna use that metric, Fabiano should not be on this list either, because Fabiano left the US around 11 years old. All his formative years and the hard work and the training he did were done in Europe. I mean, it was done in Europe. He worked with Russian coaches, specifically Alex Chernin, as well as a few others. He was living in Budapest, playing in Hungary. Later on, he went to Italy as well. So like, at the end of the day, if we're talking about if you're going to leave Gata off, then Fabiano shouldn't be on this list either, because from the time Fabiano was like 11 years old to like 20, all the years that matter as far as chess development goes, he was not in the US, and he grew up with the European approach. All the training was in like the Russian school of chess. So if you're going to leave Gata off for that reason, then I mean, Fabiano shouldn't be on this list. So that's why I have a problem with like leaving Gata off here, because Gata came to the US when I think he was like 15 or 16, I believe. So I mean, that's kind of the point. Gata's won 5 US championships. He should be on this list as well. Definitely should be on this list.
Yeah, maybe I should have ranked Morphe higher back then. I don't know.
I think, by the way, while David's tabulating, I mean, let's just say Fabi, he still has a shot at winning the title. It's not over yet. So that's out there. Naka, of course, is also going to come in.
I mean, but again, like, I know what they're saying about Fabiano or myself, but like, honestly, I don't care what we do in the rest of our careers. Bobby will always be better than both of us. Like, I don't care. Even if one of us wins and becomes world champion, we pale in comparison to Fischer, just because of how strong Fischer was. 11-0 at the US Championship, won 8 US championships. He was like 90 points ahead of the field. And you look at the 2700 list still. I mean, you look at that list, they still list Fischer, and that's like, he's like 20th highest rating of all time. And that's like, I think the next, when someone finally passes rating, was like in the 90s. So I don't care if Fabiano wins or I win. We're never going to compare to Bobby Fischer. We're never going to, I mean, it's not the same thing. 22nd now, yeah, but I mean, it's not on the same scale at all. Fischer won those matches. Who is it? It's against Taimanov and Larson by I think 6-0 each one as well. Never going to happen again. It's just not. I mean, it's just that's just not a good reason, honestly. Even if we both, even if either one of us wins, we'll never compare to Bobby.
This next cycle, they both feel underdogs in light of the Indians, but still, we got to say they both are not out of the game.
Yeah. I mean, Naka, I can definitely see him moving up on the list. But what would Fabi have to do to pass Fischer or Morphe?
That's a good question.
Nothing.
It's
not possible.
He'd have to win the world
a few times.
By the way, when we talk about tournament results.
No, by the way, you know what I would say though? You guys say that I'm number one. Even if you like, if you want to use the metric of having an influence or making a change and like really broadening the reach of chess, I still wouldn't be number one. Because what Bobby did, I mean, I would have to check the number, but I think that something like more people watch that world championship match in 72 than like the people watch regular sporting events. So like even if you use like influence or whatever, Fischer would still be number one by a country mile because chess was on TV for that 72 match. And yeah, Bobby got, I mean, he got a call from Henry Kissinger to go play in Reykjavik, Iceland. Like, I mean, if you use that metric, Bobby's number one, I'm number two, but Fischer is still number one, even if you use that metric. Because like the rise of chess during Fischer's time, like the amount of people who were following it, it's just like, I mean, it's off that scale. Do you think like I'd get a call from Biden or Trump like over a chess tournament? No, of course not. That would never happen. Never in a million years.
I haven't done the math on this, but him going, what was it, a gazillion to zero at the Singfield Cup in 2014, I believe. That's probably the strongest tournament performance ever.
Yeah,
it is number one.
It is considered that.
I mean, I should be ahead of Fabiano because I've beaten him head to head lately. I mean, you could say that, but I just look at the pure peak. I look at the peak, and I think it's pretty much indisputable that if not for Magnus, Fabiano for sure would have been classical world champion if you look at the level of chess that he was playing in 2018. I mean, I also would make the argument that if not for Magnus, I think I would have won at least 2 World Blitz championships by this point now, if not for Magnus, because there have been multiple years I've done very well. I tied for first in 2019, lost a tiebreaker to Magnus. 2020 or 2021, whatever that was, like I got COVID. I think I was doing pretty well that year as well. So I think I would have won at least 2 World Blitz championships, but I think Fabiano for sure would have been the classical world champion as well. So it's what it is for both of us. We would have had much better careers if not for Magnus. I have no doubt about that. Is this live? Yeah, we're live right now. Yes.
Which is wild.
And Gukesh's performance at the Olympiad's number 2, by the way. And these, if you're just doing performance ratings, right? It depends how you want to calculate ratings and stuff. There was that Karpov Linares tournament that was insane, but
right.
But according to the performance lists, yeah. Okay, so we've got Fine gets 2 points for Jesse.
Yeah, and the way we're ranking these folks is we're assigning them points. So if they get a number 10 placing, they get 1 point. And then if they get a number 1 placing, they get 10 points for that. And then we're just going to add them up and see who has...
Change to 1.25. It's only like 4 minutes,
points.
so it doesn't matter.
For me. And Kostya has Pillsbury here at 8, which is 3 points. 1 point below Fine, and then 0.
Our draw is boring. Not really. No, it's like 4. I don't know if they're going to say anything about me. Are they going to say anything?
So
let me pick up the speed right. It's a little bit too slow.
if you guys see a number 10, who should be number 10 here in our rankings?
It's still too slow.
Brown.
Let's up the
Walter
speed.
Brown. Yes.
Yeah, because Jesse has a number 7.
Okay.
So 4 points and then 1 point from me.
Dude, you didn't have Sarah one on this list, buddy? You put, Jesus. Guess what's weirder and weirder, man.
You should not complain, Jesse. You're wrong on this one. You're just showing recency bias.
I was able to change my mind, young friend.
I know, that's
I was
good.
able to
Good
change
work.
my mind.
We should focus on that. Jesse was able to change his mind on something very impressive. That's very
So I mean, basically saying
Yeah.
Fischer is number
Okay,
one,
it's a
right?
list.
Fischer's
Costa,
number
show him
one.
the list, buddy.
All
Show him
right,
the
we
list.
got the final standings here. Let me move over. Sorry, folks, 1 second.
I feel pretty good about this list.
Oh yeah, this is a solid list.
It's generally, I would say, like top 4 aside. Mostly, let me take the caption off so I can see this. Brown 10, Sarawan 9, Pillsbury 8. I would say Pillsbury probably. I'm not sure that I like Pillsbury being up here. I think that Sarawan and Brown should be above him because Pillsbury had the one great tournament in Hastings. It was at 1895, I think it was, if I remember correctly. Fine, Marshall, Reshevsky, decent. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure I love this list. I'd probably put Sarawan higher because he did make the candidates. He, I believe, was top. I don't know if he was ever top 10, but close to it. So, I mean, it's a list. I mean, the top 4 at least I think are generally correct in a given order. putting Fabiano at 3 seems high. It depends what your definition is. If you look at the pure absolute top, yes. If you look at our actual individual accomplishments, I mean, you're basically saying that Fabiano winning the candidates and making the world championship match is the most important thing, because from that is the one thing Fabiano has that I don't have. He has that, and he has the highest rating. Obviously I have more US championships. I have a winning score head to head against Fabiano, so those go in my favor, but you know, it doesn't really matter that much to me either way. This is all going to be very subjective, so not a big deal. But what I don't like here, by the way, what I don't like about this list is that Gata Kamsky is not here. Gata should be on this list. I consider him just as American as we are. I think actually if you want the honest take, number 5 after Fabiano and myself should be Gata. I think Gata should be number 5. I consider him to be American. There's no reason that he shouldn't be on this list. He came to the US as a teenager. He should be on this list, and he should be number 5 for sure. Gata should be number 5 on this list.
Solid list for sure. Okay, so for the podcast, number 10, we got Walter Brown with average score 1.67. Okay, anyways, 10th place Walter Brown, 9th place Yasser Seirawan, 8th place Harry Pillsbury, 7th place Ruben Fine, 6th place Frank Marshall, 5th place Samuel Reshevsky, 4th place Hikaru Nakamura, 3rd we have Caruana, 2nd place got Morphy, and 1st place Fisher.
Oh, beautiful list.
Yeah, there you have it, folks. The objective top 10 greatest US players of all time.
Well, no, look, I mean, Kashan and Showalter were like much better than the bottom 2 that you guys averaged up there, boosted up with the recency bias. And for Jesse to be upset at me for putting people who were like number 2 in the world on the list, and instead he's got people who were like number 30.
To be fair, I had heard of Kashan, but it was not a name that even remotely came up. And no one put it on the list originally.
Seirawan was top 10 for decades, buddy. Decades. He was the only American player up there. What are you talking about? Brown?
His peak ranking was number 14. Kashan was number 2. You see the difference, the gap there?
No, Seirawan was
some accountant, dude.
Yeah, all right. I mean, this is just like general. Like I mean, they're just splitting hairs here. But I think overall, if I look at a list, I think the top 5, and I mean, of course, it's subjective, but I would say that, I mean, it should be Fisher, Morphy, Fabiano, myself, and Gata. And you can pick the order, like that's that, but those should be the top 5. Gata should be on this list. I think it's really a travesty to not include him, because I mean, Gata basically, I mean, in my book, he's just as American as everybody else. And if you're not gonna have Gata here, you shouldn't have Fabiano here, is how I feel about it, because like it's getting very subjective. Because then you're saying Gata, where did he learn his chess? He learned his chess obviously in Russia, or the former Soviet Union. Which is nice and fine, but Fabiano, his formative years were also in Europe, primarily in Budapest and Hungary, working with Russian coaches. So like, I don't really like this list. I think just like not having Gata should be here, or if you're not gonna have Gata, you shouldn't have Fabiano. So I think it should be just Fisher, Morphy, Fabiano, myself, and Gata, probably in that order. I don't have a problem with it, but that should be the top 5 for sure. Should be the top 5. Why not Wesley So? Another good example of someone who came here when he was like 19 or 20 as well. If you're not going to have him, I mean, you know what I'm going to say to that. Same thing I would say in regards to Gata as well. So I don't really like it. Maybe I'll make my own tier list of like top American players historically at some point, but it is what it is. So